added some buzzwords like sustainable supply chain, sustainability reporting, GRI, or even concepts like cradle to create an inclusive economy. And then the question marks become bigger. And I said, well, okay, I have to change how I can introduce my stuff, like a doctor who says, I'm healing my patients. And then I said, well, I am going out to factories to make the air more clean. And then the people said, well, okay, I understand. Even this is really simplifying our work. But this brings me to a very fundamental point about sustainability. Even when I want to talk, when I hear the discussion yesterday and also on the other CSR forums around China and also on the global level, even also talking with the clients, we are lost in complexity in sustainability. I see companies, they're doing reporting because of reporting. We do a reporting. We're doing audits because of doing audits. We forget, okay, there are the challenges out there. How we address those challenges, how we get connected, the impact of companies to those challenges. And we are in a sustainability context gap. And my colleague Rolf Thurm, he will be the following speaker. He will talk a lot about this. So I will now jump into my slides about how to make sustainability happening in the supply chain. We talked a lot about there are imbalances in China. I don't think we need to talk about this too much in detail. We focused too much on money and forgot about environment and people. Not having said that, China did a great job during the last 30 years, bringing 300 million or 400 million people into the middle class, but still there are imbalances. And we have serious issues about health and safety still in the factories. Looking at about the labor market, we have crossed the Lewis turning point, which means one of the biggest competitive advantages of Chinese manufacture was cheap labor, the supply of cheap labor. And this has already stopped because we have fewer workers and labor costs are increasing. But the interesting part, the productivity remains the same and the labor cost goes up. So this puts a lot of challenges on the manufacturers in China. And what we also see, and that we have good laws in China about labor law and environmental law. We have sophisticated strategies, and we heard a lot of them during the last days in the corporations to address CSR. And we have already thousands of CSR standards. And what I liked from the person from Syntac, Dr. Liang, yesterday, he said, we don't need another policy. We need implementation. And that's what we are missing here. And what I see how these challenges are addressed in the factories, and I'm working with retailers from Europe and going then to the factories, what I see is an end of pipe control is focus on audit, which are focusing on passing the audit but not really changing the audit. And then if there is a bad remark in the audit, then let's do more audits, but this will not solve the problem. This is not about to say how good we are, it's just telling, like, okay, this created reports, what we see out there, that will not help us to clean the air or to have an inclusive economy. I don't want to blame too much about the audit industry. I want to see we need a shift, and we talked already yesterday about it. We need to have a shift from compliance to more commitment approaches, which address the root causes, why we have these challenges there, and how we can together solve them. And what I see in the Chinese factories these days, we have price pressures still from the buyers. We have short lead times. We have shortage of workers, which I already mentioned before. We have a lack of skillful management personnel. There are the factories owners. They come into these factories and they just build it up, and they have still lack of management capacities to manage those factories on a long-term perspective. And of course, we have increasingly regulatory pressure. What is my point about working with suppliers in China is you cannot just come there and say, well, now you have, or the buyer goes there and still works. You need to produce cheap. You need to produce in a high quality in a short lead time, and then sign the contract, and then, oh, here's the CSR person, and now you have to follow this one. That's not going to work. You need to find a language the factories are talking and understand, and this is how to create competitive advantage. You need to talk with them, hey, you want to be the green guy to stand above the others. And this is only working if you can talk with them about better products or higher productivity. And when we talk about better products means innovation. Innovation in future will always be linked to sustainability. There won't be any innovation anymore if you cannot sell it as a sustainable innovation. And the other thing to create productivity is that what we are doing most of our times is like trying to get incentives for the factories to go into sustainability, and that could be less employee turnover, lower accidents rates, that they can really see the benefits, the financial benefits for the companies. And on the other side, on the environmental side, cleaner production, which I go more into detail later. We have a transformation of manufacturing landscape in China. There is more intensive competition due to several reasons. There's overcapacity since 2008. There was a lot of money in the market, which creates a lot of overcapacities. Then we have demand for talent because lack of workforce. Factories need to find ways to maintain. We have factories with, I have one factory that had 150% turnover per year. So how you want to create better products if you change your workforce 1.5 times per year? This is impossible to create more or higher added value products. And when we look at the production costs, of course it's also going up due to compliance requirements, but main driver labor costs, I would say, also increasing of raw material prices. And then we have the new environmental landscape. We have 2015 a revision of the environmental law with a lot of more focus on enforcement, and that will change. And we need to find ways how we can, how the suppliers can drive for success and their, I said, higher value added products, higher productivity, operational excellence. There's still so many. I'm confused by this number, 20. It means what? 2 minutes. Okay, got it. So I go quickly forward. So that's changing. That's changing in China. And there, I think the most important points, it's CSR is working differently in China, and we need clear incentives and consequences for buyers and suppliers. Just not talking about what it could be, I will give you 3 or 4 examples what we do. Establishing communication channels between management and workers, it's essential in Chinese factories. It's still top-down implementation and one-way communication. We need, the workers are not stupid, they're working, they're doing that stuff every day, and they have good ideas how to improve, and every factory can improve. Another thing is about cleaner production, not talking about how to install a filter which costs more money. This is every Chinese factory, they will, oh, no, I'm not going to do it. You need to find ways how you don't need the filter at the end, that you change the process, and that's where we're working on, where you can effectively save the money. We focus there on the NPO, which means non-product output. Everything what is not in the final product what you sold, which is wasted on the way during the production. That's the focus, and there you can really save, and there you can engage the factories. Simple example is a dyeing factory. It's huge. They have 10,000 people working there, and they have this big container where they have the color, which is sucked by some pumps to make the color on the garn. And then we saw, okay, they changed these big tubes, baskets, several times a day, and then there's always a residue, like a leftover, and they just wasted it. And I said, wow, what we can do with this? So what happens when you mix 30 different colors? Anybody know? When you put 30 different colors together, you get black. And you can a little bit, if it's gray, then you can add a little bit black, so you can use it as black color. So it's zero investment, but it has a huge impact. For example, another one is about a socks factory. They had the wrong incentives for the workers. They tuned the machines to produce more, but actually they produce a lot of waste. So we installed some sensors that stops the machine. I'm not sure if I can point here. No, I can't point. But there on the right side, you see it, like that the machine not produce the socks with the arrow, which is happening already over there, that it just stops, and then you can use that time to produce more socks. That's another example, and I will close with that one, is a tools manufacturer. It's in Ningbo. I will visit that tomorrow. They have air compressed because they want to produce fast, so they installed, as you can see, a little bit interesting setting, compressed air pistols beside the machine. So if the stamp goes down, it's making a pressure, so the tool goes away, so they can do it very fast, so they don't need to get it away. But as you know, if you have a hole in a compressed air system like this, what they did, and run it all the time, this costs you, depending on the system, 20 to 30,000 euros, and they had 20 to 30 of these machines running there. So what we did, we installed sensors that it only blows out the air when exactly it's needed and not all the time. So these are solutions which we can supply. We're also working with government, and this is about smart meters, how you, because it's not only technology, it's behavior of the people. You need to change the behavior of the people to get them energy saving, and you have to visualize it. If you don't visualize it, you cannot engage the people. And that's an example of what we did in one bigger project. So is savings per year, like 1,200 households from Germany and almost 1 million euro. So thank you very much. Looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Tobias. Thank you for also sharing with us. Thank you for also sharing with us some of the solutions that you've been working on with the brand owners, not just on the hardware side, but also software, behavior, and such. To answer your call for implementation, I'd like to welcome our next speaker, Alan Eichen from Huawei. Alan is representing the enterprise sector, exactly the sector that can act, that can implement, right? Please. Alan is the sustainability officer at Huawei. For the past 10 years, he's been driving for positive improvements within the supply chain sector. He has audited over 200 suppliers, so truly a guru. Please, Alan.
Okay, thank you very much, young lady. In interest of time, I'll go very quickly through my presentation so we have at least some time for questions. Who in the room has not heard of Huawei? Everybody knows Huawei. Okay, then I can go really quickly here. We're a big company, a Chinese privately owned company. We're broken into three business groups: the carrier network, that's the infrastructure, the backbone that allows you to make your phone calls; consumer business, which you can think of Huawei excellent smartphones, Ascent P7, and the enterprise business, which is the little things like routers and modems, but also the big video conferencing systems. Our revenue is about $45 billion US dollars. We'll finish around there this year. Even in the context of the rather stagnant global growth, we are growing at about 13% compound annual growth rate. We deal with 45 of the top 50 operators, so the Vodafones and the British Telecoms, etc. And we've got about 150,000 people that work for us globally. We're in 160 countries. We've got 16 research and development centers, and you'll see why in a moment. 28 joint innovation centers with universities and customers. Regional headquarters set up in the major regions. 45 training centers. The bottom left shows you our Huawei University. And I said 150,000 employees. Of those 150,000 employees, almost half of them are research and development engineers. We've invested last year, for example, about 30 billion RMB which is about 13% of our revenues. And we have got 44,000 patents. So for anyone who says, oh, Chinese just copy, they should look at what we have done, and also our esteemed competitors here in China who generate something the same number of patents, and we get about $300 million worth of revenue every year. Not bad for a copy company, right? And we belong to about 150,000 standard organizations where, yes, we participate to understand, but also in some of these standard organizations we actually help drive the standards. We have a leading position in the global industry, so we're in mobile network, where we are very strong in LTE and GSM. Fixed network, #1 across the board, and in IP, we're in the top 3 as well. In fact, we're the only telecom company that's in all 3 segments with a top position. I'd like to take maybe 3 or 4 minutes just to show you this really neat video. Can you run the video for me? So I've seen that video about 100 times, and I still love it. The reason being is, I think, is that a business video or is it a sustainability CSR video? And of course, the answer is both. From the business side, just look at the opportunity. 7 billion people on the face of the planet. Only 1 billion are connected. 3 billion have got smart. That means there's 4 billion people who still don't have those smartphones. Guess what? We can sell it to them. We can build the infrastructure to allow them to use it. So, I mean, it's a business opportunity, but what it does is it connects the unconnected. It bridges the digital divide. Our founder, Mr. Ren, the vision he has for our company, and please look up our website, is we want to enrich lives, people's lives, through technology and communication. What is more sustainable, what is more socially oriented is that our chairman of the board, by the way, is a woman, not a man. The chairperson of the board is Madame Sun, and she has said, without a sustainable society, without a sustainable environment, you can't have a sustainable business. Very simple, very profound. So our top senior executive management understand it, and as long as they understand it, it filters down. And that's why Huawei take this stuff really very, very seriously. Okay, I was asked to talk briefly about what challenges I see in the supply chain, and of course the first one, as Gubebe mentioned, is transparency. And it's perhaps the greatest challenge. At Tier 1, when our customers talk to Huawei, they're rather comfortable about what we and our competitors are doing there, Tier 1. However, they rely on us to impact our Tier 1, and we do. We've got a really good sense now about what's going on in Tier 1. But the deeper you go into the supply chain, the more murky the water becomes. And we need far more transparency there. And there's many tools available, but my question is, are they effective? Personally, I say no. Do we need them? Yes, we do. But can they be vastly improved? Yes. Old methods are still appropriate. You know, you really must visit those key suppliers and their suppliers and cascade those requirements through the supply chain. If someone says to me, Alan, we have to go beyond audit, stop, I say you're crazy. If we stop auditing now, I don't think things will get better. I think things will get worse. So we have to do what we're doing, but do it better, do it more efficiently, and take a quantum leap to do something different on top of that. Some things are training and capability building with the supply base. And what we try to do is drive proactive reporting. When we ask for data, we get it. I don't want to spend my time asking for it and digging for it. I want people to have the mindset to tell me what they're doing. And many people are doing good things. They just don't talk about it. And really how to do that, you have to build trust and foster a win-win-win. The company can win, the supplier wins, the customer wins, society wins if we do this right. Another thing is embed sustainability into the business strategy. You've heard it 100 times during the course of yesterday and even this morning, and I'm so happy. I've been around for many, many years, and I'm so happy that I could take Roy's slides, for example. I could change the name from United Technologies. I change the name, I put Huawei, I bring it to my company, and I say, this is what we do, and they will say, yeah, that's what we do. And there's so much commonality now of thought, and I think that if each of us can drive it in the areas where we can control into the business strategy, where it becomes like quality was. 40 years ago, quality, we'd got quality gurus, we'd got Deming and Crosby and a big quality organization and inline inspection and incoming. You don't see that anymore. It's just part of how we do business. Quality is there. It's just there. And that's where we have to get sustainability. So the question is, does executive and senior management recognize this and promote the need for it to be part of the business strategy? And then do the functional operational areas, they hear the boss, they say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, but do they actually walk the talk? And these are the real challenges to really embed it into the business strategy. Collaboration is another one. With whom? And is this recognized by the business as a necessity? Is it nice to do or need to do? At Huawei, we believe it is need to do. We can't do everything ourselves. We know that. You also have to think about collaboration beyond competition. In the telecom industry, that is actually the reality. We have a joint audit collaboration where 10 top operators here, they work together. One will go and audit a supplier. The result of that audit is made known to everybody. It reduces duplication of effort, it reduces audit fatigue, and probably reduces the carbon footprint because people are not flying back and forth to do these audits. Collaboration with suppliers in the value chain, and their suppliers, and their suppliers, and their suppliers. Collaboration with all key stakeholders. I'll touch on that in a moment. And also, within the industry now in telecom, we do have quite a good collaboration, even with competitors. But we maybe should think about cross-sector collaboration where we can learn from each other. And last but not least is harmonize stakeholder desires. And I use that word because I always want to say we should align to make sure we're all singing from the same song sheet. That's a big ask. Can we all get aligned on all the stakeholder value chain? That will be difficult, but as long as we're singing from the same song sheet and in harmony, yeah, it doesn't matter if we're exactly aligned. There are many, many stakeholders in the entire ecosystem. Each stakeholder exhibits similar but different requirements. So if you look at the people with whom we deal on a daily basis, continuously are our customers, suppliers, employees, NGOs, government, communities, academia, industry associations, and we are a private company, so not investors, but yes, you should also engage with your investors. We engage with government because they play a big role. In Shenzhen, the Shenzhen government have asked us, and we work with them, in fact they are using and abusing us to lead the project, to identify suppliers there who are looking to install better waste management systems or to reduce air emissions. And the government will give up to 30% subsidy. So if I'm a CFO in a company and I look at this huge wastewater management plant and look at ROI, return on investment, I think, oh my God, this is a hard decision. But if I get 30% from the government, then it makes the decision that much more easy. The boss held up a sign saying, finished? I've finished. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alan. And thank you for sharing that powerful video as well. It brings us into realization that companies exist because it provides value to society. And the sustainable development of companies and the sustainable business practices that it acts upon is what we're here to talk about today. I've jotted down some keynotes, some key words to guide you, because we're now going to open up to questions. Feel free to ask our panelists on topics from responsible sourcing, transparency, greening, engagement and collaboration, as well as consumer education and sustainability marketing. Also, Alan also touched upon strategy within the company, addressing senior management decisions and such. The floor is open for questions.
Hi. So all three of you really pushed transparency, and so I'm wondering how you actually do that, especially in a place like China where transparency is not exactly number one in many places. So this is open to anybody. If anybody has any specific tools, like Gu Beibei, you mentioned the Corporate Info Transparency Index. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Okay, thank you for the question. Yeah, I think transparency has been always a quite hot topic, especially in when it comes to if and whether the government has been disclosing enough information, or whether the information quality is like consistent. So when we were engaging or talking to different stakeholders, we always get these questions. And for us, we've been focusing on collecting the environmental related information for the past 8 years. And for us, the first impression for us is that in terms of the information disclosure, it has been improved quite a lot. So I give you a quite simple number. When we first started in 2006, the first year we were only able to collect around 2,500 environmental records released by the local environmental bureaus. And now every year we can consistently collect more than 20,000 records. So it's like more than increased by 10 times. And in terms of the quality of the information, because more has been disclosed and being put under public scrutiny. So we also have a better way to really look at it more consistently. So for example, if we see one factory has been disclosing their emission data for the past few years, and if we identify that one year has shown some really odd number or strange number, then we can always identify and come back to check if there's anything wrong. Is there a major process change that could cause this change, or if the number has been got wrong? So for us, really having that amount of information available is the number one thing, and also for the public, how how can they effectively utilize the information? In the past, the government has been disclosing in a quite scattered way. So all the local government has established their own portal to share the information. But for the general public, this is not the best way for them to take the information and compare. So what we do is we collect all the information and put it in a centralized database. And now, in this mobile era, we even take one step further. So we took all the real-time emission data and put it into a mobile phone apps. So for all the public people, they can access the key emitters data every hour by one click on their mobile phone. So yeah, I think maybe Alan has more to add on this.
Just from the enterprise viewpoint, we view transparency as not nice to have, but need to have, and we view it as a friend. Of course, with our suppliers, we're very demanding. We want the data, and we want it proactively. But even from a Huawei point of view, we have learned that by not being transparent, the assumption is that you're not doing it. And that's a big danger. And in fact, up until maybe 3 or 4 years ago, maybe even more recently than that, Huawei was actually viewed as a mysterious company. I heard that terminology a number of times, a very mysterious company. So we said, we're not, and we want to be extremely open. And we've opened up everything. Even Mr. Ren, our founder, who is 70 years old, doesn't speak English, he has begun giving interviews. Can you imagine? Before, he never thought it was necessary. Look at our growth. Why? But in fact now, even the big boss has begun to become more transparent. And certainly on the sustainability side, NGOs and our customers, when we told them what we were doing, they said, we didn't know that. And I thought, well, that's shame on us. We didn't tell you. That's why you don't know it. So more and more and more, you will find that people are beginning to realize that without transparency, it's viewed negatively. With transparency, it's viewed positively, even if there's some negative things. Admit it and close the gap. Then you get big points on that.
The short comment added by the consultant. I think when we look at the sustainability reports, and especially on GRI reports where we have materiality defined by the internal perspective, but also the stakeholder perspective. So you bring into the stakeholder opinions to define your material aspects where you go for sustainability action. I think that's not so advanced in China yet, but I see companies starting doing it. There are a lot of sustainability reports, but it's a question how they did the stakeholder engagement and the dialogues. And of course, we need to consider the cultural differences, how you engage with your stakeholders to define your material topics. But I think that's something which drives then the transparency as well.
Thank you. And it's probably valuable to say that transparency is also an important quality internally, because when you go about the processes of creating this report, the sustainability report, you're actually making it aware internally how important it is to the company, how the decision makers view processes and right ways of valuing sustainable principles as important. Thank you for the question. Other questions? Very clear. Well, I have one. Actually, I'm quite curious how our speakers will look at all of these sustainable actions on supply chain and other business operations, how it translates into business value. Yes, particularly Tobias has talked about leveraging these as business competitive advantages. What have you seen in your collaborations with businesses, Tobias, and also Pepe and Alan? Please jump in.
I think in my presentation I made it pretty clearly, like you can only drive the change in the factories if you can show them a real benefit, especially talking with Chinese manufacturers. They are very pragmatic. If you don't have a return on investment calculation, they will not go for the change. They will do something, but not change. And I think
besides these hardware changes and, obviously going for lower cost and saving materials and such, does it have any benefits at the end users? Like, how do customers think about this? How is it properly translated to them?
Well, in black and white terms, from a purely business perspective, it is actually all about business. So our customers have made it very clear to us that if we behave sustainably and actually go beyond compliance, they will reward us with more business, which means other people don't get the business. And we actually tell our suppliers exactly the same thing. We will have a big supplier conference that Gubei actually attended this September in Huawei, where we've got 250 suppliers in the same room, and that's the message we send to them. What is very powerful, what Huawei does better than anybody, is we invite our customers to meet with our suppliers. Same room. And they hear from our customers that if Huawei behaves better, we get more business, and then we say to the suppliers, if you behave better, you get more business. Also, the opposite is very true. And where it translates to our customer and to us, the consumer, is that because of our green focus, our products are very, very energy efficient. And that's why our product gets swapped for other current, from Ericsson or whomever, because it makes sense. It's economic sense for the customer of Huawei and therefore for the consumer. So it really does translate into business.
Thank you.
I think I fully agree with what Alan has just said. I think in terms of addressing the problem in the supply chain, which is so complex and also sometimes requires really investment and commitment from all stakeholders, we really need some joint efforts. So maybe another example to show, because I was in Shanghai actually a couple of weeks ago, joining a multi-stakeholder meeting by an organization called the ZDHC, which stands for Zero Discharge of Hazardous Chemicals. This is the alliance by around 20 leading textile brands who formed with this agenda to eliminate all the hazardous chemicals in use in the whole supply chain. And actually that meeting has included all different kinds of stakeholders in the whole supply chain, from the brand to the dye houses to even upstream to the chemical formulators, and also, of course, those auditing firms and testing firms, and of course from governmental and non-governmental representatives. And I just want to say that because the issue has been really, really complex, and it really requires the stakeholders to fully recognize the issue and come together in order to come up with a solution. So, for example, what they propose is that to really eliminate this from the root, from the source, where the brands will propose a list of the banned chemicals, and where the chemical companies will take that list to drive their further innovation and development project. So without this kind of multi-stakeholder engagement, probably the chemical companies in the upstream will have a difficult time to really understand what is the needs, what is the future trends, and how can they drive their future development. So, of course, transparency brings in more opportunity here, and it's really the key issue, because it's about leveling the playing ground. It's about those who are doing good should be recognized and should be rewarded. It's also about to really have a long-term motivation processes to keep everyone going forward. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So throughout your presentations, you've repeatedly talked about collaborations and engagement. Of course, with a more complex business environment, collaborations not only within your industries but cross industries is becoming more important to providing that total solutions. do you have any advice to share to our audience, with our audience, about creating effective collaborations?
Yeah, I listed a whole big bunch of stakeholders, and it's just not a list. We actually have spent an enormous amount of time working with each of them, me personally on a whole number of issues, but my organization. And frankly, when I said we have to work closer with academia, my boss said, why? With customers, I understand. With suppliers, I understand. With government, but why academia? And in fact, when you think about it, it is these college professors who are teaching the leaders of the future. Also, they're dragging together a lot of research data, which is used by NGOs. And the NGOs will then use that data to come to us and ask what's happening. So when we are talking with these, I work with Humboldt University in Germany and Waseda in Tokyo, Monash in Melbourne, even Harvard Business School have approached us to start working on a case study, not just because we're a Chinese company doing good things, because we're a global brand doing good things. I don't know if you saw, but we are now number 94 in the top 100 global brands. That's not bad after 27 years, a little Chinese company. But because we are doing good things, these guys are interested in what we're doing, and because of transparency, we want to tell people what we're doing. And they are a key stakeholder for us. Academia, government, you look at it, each one of you have to think about who are your key stakeholders and really how much can you give them and what do you get back by that dialogue.
Thank you very much, and we've run out of time. I want to thank our panelists for their time and sharing your expertise with us. Please join me in thanking them. Thank you.